Grace and peace, everybody. Welcome to Berean TV. As many of you know, we just started back doing videos. We've been on kind of a sabbatical, but there's been a lot of questions coming in by way of emails and messages, and we're trying to start to answer those questions. And one of the questions that came in from a sister that I thought was real interesting. She saw another video that we did on the third eye or the pineal gland. So we're going to title this one God and the Pineal Gland. And she said, Berean, why would God create us with the pineal gland if he did not want us to open our third eye or to use it? Now, when we start dealing with the pineal gland or the third eye, we have to understand that what we call, or what they call the mysteries, the secret doctrine, there has always been an occult doctrine. When we use the word occult, that just means something that's secret or something that's hidden. They have occult blood. When we start dealing with the occult doctrine or secret doctrine, that's something that has come down from the ancients. And when we deal with the occult and when we deal with the third eye, or the pineal gland, there's always been symbols. We have the eye of Horus that I believe he went to war with Set, and he lost an eye. And there's people that believe that story allegorically have to do with the third eye. We have the pine cone that you would see in the Vatican, and in Hinduism we have the third eye. Through different occult traditions, or the world over, we have a doctrine of the third eye, or dealing with the spirit realm with multidimensional beings, and how you get into that realm through DMX, DMT, ayahuasca, LSD, be it Timothy Leary and different scholars in Harvard, dealing with certain drugs to open yourself up to another dimension in the spirit realm. Well, in the beginning, when we start dealing with Adam, the original man, there are other scholars, researchers like Chuck Missler. And Chuck believes that Adam, like in Islam, that Adam was a multidimensional being. But it's interesting because if we look at Islam, they don't believe like many fundamentalist Christians or Hebrew Israelites that the Garden of Eden was somewhere in the Fertile Crescent or the interior of Africa. In Islam, they don't believe the Garden of Eden was on this planet. They believe that Adam was a multidimensional being moving in a different realm. He had dominion over the planet, but that he was actually he had access to space and access to the spirit realm or to another dimension, and that was the original purpose of the pineal gland. And there are certain drugs and there are certain things that can get man into an altered state or put man into a state where the veil would become thinner and you can begin to deal with demons, spirits, grays, aliens, ancestors that move about in a different dimension. All of the ancients believed once you died or you passed on that you continue to exist, that there was consciousness, or that your spirit man was something that was created in the image of God that is eternal. And once you separate from your body, that's death, the cessation of the spirit, or the separation of your spirit or your soul and your body. And it's interesting because in the non-canonical book of Enoch, when we say canon is just a word that we used. That's how we measure our faith. But as a Protestant, I understand that we have the smallest canon, which is 66 books in what we call what's known as the King James Bible. But after the Council of Trent, you have 1st and 2nd Maccabees and Judith and Ezra and different books that belong to the Catholic canon. And outside of the Catholic canon, we have what's known as the Orthodox Church, or the Ethiopian Church, Coptic churches canon, and their canon have what's known as the Book of Enoch. There's multiple books of Enoch, but when we say Enoch, we're talking about 1st Enoch. And the Book of Enoch speaks about fallen angels or watchers, and how 200 fallen angels, or these watchers, came down to Mount Hermon, and there were 200 of them, and that they taught certain things. They taught women makeup. They taught herbs, and they taught certain things that man can be able to have contact with the spirit realm. So it seems like after the fall of man, that there were certain things. Esoteric Christians believe that that's what the book of Genesis talk about, when God put a cherub or an angel by the garden to protect the tree of life, or to keep men from it with a flaming sword. And esoteric Christians believe that that was the blockage of the pineal gland, or the Most High God cutting man off from giving him total access to the spirit realm, and move about in the spirit realm and deal with angels and spirits, or other beings that we would call multidimensional beings. And that was to protect mankind. But that's interesting, that if you read the book of Enoch, it's going to say that there were certain things that were taught by these fallen beings, or these fallen angels, or these watchers that left their first estate. And one of the things that they taught man to do was to decalcify his pineal gland and begin to commune in the spirit world with them and other entities or beings, whatever you would call them. You know, we call certain beings watchers, we call them evil spirits, and various things that scripture identifies them as, or just deceiving spirits. But the book says, the book of Enoch says, that these people were taught various things. They were taught to commit abortions. They were taught how to do that. They were taught sorcery. Sorcery is taking certain herbs like ayahuasca and certain things and making them into a paste. And sorcery is interesting. That the Latin word we see in there is pharmakia. And in the Greek, we see it pharmakia. If you look it up in Revelation, that men continued in their sorcery, and that has to do with drugs and witches brewing up potions, and you're cooking up certain plants, and you're adding baking powder, and you're making crack, you're making dope, you're making heroin, you're making other things to alter people's consciousness, or to put them in a certain state mentally, or like I said, to thinning out the veil, that they can begin to deal with spirits or beings in a different dimension. And people the world over have done this. The ancient shamans, they believed it was something that was there, and it was dangerous to do. So you had to be skilled in the craft of going into the spirit realm. It's interesting, because I look at people in the conscious community, and they try to bring up certain things that has been in Freemasonry, that's been in European Freemasonry, that's come down on Kabbalah from European Jews. And most rabbis will tell you Kabbalah is something very dangerous, because it has to do with going into the spirit realm and what they would call the tree of life. We believe that those are doctrines from the fallen ones that has always come down. Like I said, we see the pine cone in the Catholic Church, and esoteric Freemasonry, and in Sufism. Every branch of religion, like Christianity has a mystical branch called Gnosticism, or esoteric Christianity. If you're dealing with Hinduism, they have esoteric Hinduism. If you're dealing with Islam, they had Sufism. If you're dealing with Judaism, they have what's known as the Kabbalah, which is the mystical branch. And all mystical traditions actually teach that you could commune with these beings and start dealing with these spirit guides. And there's an awakening. Because of the internet, there's an awakening. So as believers, we're going to have to start answering some things, because so many people are going into the spirit realm and the spirit world. When I even think about what they call Enochian magic, John Dee was a European scholar that was in the Queen's Court. He was known as the original 007. They said at that time in Europe, he had more books than anybody else on the face of the earth. And he was involved in communing with the spirits, and his partner, John Kelly. And they were supposed to be mystical Christians. And these spirits, or these angels that they started communing with, started telling them certain things about Jesus in the Bible that they didn't like. So Kelly fell back from it. But John Dee, he continued in it. And he have an elaborate language, an elaborate esoteric teaching that's called Enochian magic, and it comes from those fallen beings. And even if you go to Hitler dealing with the pre-flood world, and they believe that they were blonde-haired, blue-eyed people that descended from the Watchers, and they had children with the Watchers, and they wanted to give them a secret doctrine to pass down. But because of certain righteous people on the planet, they had to keep it secret, so it became esoteric. Later on, Freemasons were, or the Catholic Church, should I say, were at war with Freemasonry because of the esoteric teaching. And the Catholics and the popes and various people throughout time have took the esoteric doctrine, and they've established that they have symbols of it all across the Vatican and cathedrals in Europe, but they didn't speak on it. It was just secretly, like Helen Blavatsky said, and it was just secretly for certain initiates. And later on it crept out. Certain portions of it crept out with the Lima, with Aleister Crowley. Some of it crept out with John Dee, and some of it crept out with Helen Blavatsky and occultists and Manly P. Hall and certain people that were keepers of the occult tradition and the occult doctrine. But people are seeking to decalcify their pineal gland and just go into the spirit realm. Even if they don't commune with beings, they want to go there and they want to see what it's like. So they want to travel and have lucid dreams, and they want to astral project. That's symbolic of us seeing a witch riding upon a broom and stuff like that. And there's a lot of people that's practicing that. They're going to Peru and they're drinking ayahuasca. They're being involved in rituals. So just to answer that sister, she said, why would God give us something or give something? It seems like with the original man, when we start dealing with Adam, who's the original man, and the fall of man, that's something that he attempted to protect us from, dealing with all of those other multidimensional beings. I mentioned Chuck Missler earlier. He said Adam was like maybe a 12-dimensional being, dealing with so much. So on the level that he was on, he was definitely different from us with eternal life and so much knowledge. And no matter what, men have shown that with all that knowledge, something took place with the serpent and there was a fall. So, like I said, this doctrine has always been around. Has it been in the church like there were two trees in the garden? Has there always been an esoteric or a secret or an occult doctrine? Has Lucifer always been there, another being? Has he always been there teaching something else alongside the teachings of the Most High God? Is occult doctrine in the Bible? I used to drive a bishop around in New York, and I was with him, and when we're getting the bishop dressed, and there's a lot of symbolic stuff in what the bishops wear and in their staff, and the same thing with the occult in the lodge. There's a lot of symbolism, but when a bishop would get dressed, he would put on a robe, and his robe had 33 buttons on it. A lot of ministers, they preach, and you see them in a robe. If you count the buttons on their robe, they're 33. And they say that's symbolic of the years that Christ walked the earth. Other people say in the occult tradition, in esoteric Christianity, that 33 has to do with the vertebrae and the spine and the pineal gland, and coming to that awakening that life force or that energy, and how light is metaphysically, how light is so important to the pineal gland and the sun, and it'll take us back to Egypt, and how that needs to be woken inside certain people so you can begin to walk and be guided by the spirits or the ancestors or whatever you want to call them. But we believe it's deception in that realm, and we believe it's something dangerous to do. Once you begin to open up yourself to that you're going to start communing with spirits that's been around for thousands of years. And there are spirits that's out there to deceive and hurt the human race, because we're God or the Most High's creation. They want to deceive them. They want to deceive us because they're in a cursed and messed up state in where they are, because they had the light, they had the life, and it was certain things that they walked away from. And because of this, they hate mankind. But the book of Enoch is very interesting. It'll put certain things in its proper perspective. We're going to start doing some PowerPoints outside of Sunday seminary, teaching on that and different topics. I just wanted to speak a little bit about that because the sister sent that email asking that question. What about God and the pineal gland? You've been watching Berean TV. If you like what you heard, subscribe. Thanks for watching.